All right, let's talk about gold. For so many of us, especially in our Indian and Telugu communities, gold isn't just an investment, right? It's part of our lives, our celebrations. But lately, trying to understand the gold market has been, well, it's been absolute mayhem. So today, we're going to untangle this whole mess.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. Think of it like this: what, so what, and now what? First, we'll get into the gold confusion. What is actually going on? Then we'll look at the different experiences. So what? Does all this chaos mean for real people like you and me? And finally, we'll cover the really practical stuff: expert advice, a really important warning about silver, and the future outlook. Basically, what should you do now? Let's get some clarity. You know, it really all boils down to this one simple question that's on everybody's mind. Should I buy gold or not? The prices are on this just stomach-churning roller coaster, and it feels impossible to make the right move. One minute you're afraid of missing out, and the next you're terrified you're about to make a huge mistake.
I mean, just look at what happened. Last week, prices were climbing nice and steady. Then bam, seemingly out of nowhere, the floor just fell out. Prices crashed. And you heard people everywhere saying, "See, told you so, the gold bubble has finally burst." It really felt like the party was over.
But just when you thought that was it, prices shot right back up, like soaring towards the sky. In fact, we just saw the single biggest one-day jump in gold prices since way back in 2008. So the bubble that supposedly just burst was suddenly inflating again, bigger than ever. Now that is the kind of chaos we're talking about.
Okay, so let's get into our first section, the gold confusion. This is our what. We're going to peel back the layers here and really look at what's causing this extreme hour-by-hour whiplash in the market.
This timeline just shows you how wild it's been. We went from a steady increase to a crash to record highs all in the span of just a few days. The price is literally changing by thousands of rupees hour by hour. It leaves everyone just asking, should I buy now? Should I wait an hour? What about tomorrow? And just to add to the drama, experts are all pointing to February 26th. Now, why that date? It's a contract ending date for futures trading, which is basically a day when the big players have to settle their bets. And that almost always causes huge swings in the market. They're telling us this roller coaster ride is only going to get more intense.
You know, this volatility isn't just about numbers on a screen. It has a real human impact. And that brings us to our next section, different experiences. This is the so what? How does this actually feel for the people who are out there buying and selling?
This market chaos is creating two totally different realities. On one hand, you've got the unlucky buyer. Imagine they just bought some beautiful jewelry for a wedding, and literally the next day the price just plummets. They feel like the most unfortunate person on earth. But then, on the other side, you've got the lucky buyer. They invested a year ago and have just watched their money multiply. They feel like a genius. For day traders, this kind of volatility can bring what the source material calls blood tears, but for long-term investors, it's creating incredible wealth.
So, with all these emotions and so much money on the line, what on earth is the smart move? Let's turn to our third section, expert advice. This is the now what. We've cut through all the noise to bring you the key takeaways from the market experts.
Okay, listen up because this is probably the most crucial takeaway. The experts say your strategy has to depend entirely on why you're buying gold. So if you're buying jewelry for a dormant, for a wedding, a festival, a special occasion, then just buy it when you need it. The advice is to focus on the joy of wearing it, not the crazy daily price chart. But if you're buying for investment, that's a whole different ballgame. Here the experts are all about systematic investing. Don't try to time the market perfectly. Instead, use these price dips as opportunities to slowly and steadily build up your holdings over time.
And for those of you who use precious metals as part of a bigger investment portfolio, this chart gives you a general idea of what the experts recommend. They typically suggest putting the lion's share, somewhere around 50 to 70%, into gold. Then a smaller slice, maybe 20 to 30%, can go to silver. Now, I have to give a quick but very important disclaimer here. This is just a summary of what the experts in our source material are saying. It is not personal financial advice. Please always do your own research before making any investment decisions.
Okay, let's move on, because the experts had a very specific, very urgent message about that smaller slice of the pie. Section 4 is called Silver, a Warning.
The message from the experts on this could not be any clearer. You need to be very careful with silver right now. While they see gold as a stable, long-term bet, they're waving a bunch of red flags about silver that everyone really needs to pay attention to.
So why the big warning? Well, first off, experts say silver's price has been artificially pumped up, which makes it way more volatile than gold. The physical supply is tight, and the market is famous for being easily manipulated, especially around those contract dates we talked about. And here's a fascinating point from our source. There's a real risk that if China decides to unload its huge silver reserves, the price could just fall off a cliff overnight. It all just paints a picture of a much, much riskier asset right now.
All right, now let's try to look beyond all this immediate chaos. For our final section, let's talk about the future outlook. What do the experts think is going to happen with gold in the long run?
So despite this insane short-term roller coaster, experts are overwhelmingly positive on gold for the long haul. And the reason is simple. Gold is the ultimate safe haven asset. Whenever global economic conditions get shaky or the US economy isn't doing so great, investors run to gold for security. And think about it. Unlike a stock, which lives or dies by one single company's performance, gold's value is global. It's enduring. It's not just a commodity. It's like a promise of security when times are uncertain.
And their confidence is so strong that the experts made this really bold prediction. They basically said, mark my words, the price of gold will not fall to one lock. They believe that, yeah, there will be ups and downs, but a catastrophic crash, they just don't see it happening. For anyone who's already invested, that's got to be some very reassuring news.
And that brings us to the end. We've seen the short-term chaos, but we've also seen the long-term confidence in gold. And we've heard those serious warnings about silver. It's a complex picture, right? Full of uncertainty. And that leaves us with one last really important question that's just for you. What is your strategy?